Hi, good evening. Welcome to my topic, which is empowering employees into entrepreneurs. So basically, the goal here is to share a little bit about how I've turned our normal swim school, which just started as a one-man show, into now having 100 team members. And with that 100 team members, we have actually built three businesses on the side, where it's like a side job for companies. And how it actually started is because I think I start off entrepreneurship on the wrong foot, where I went into entrepreneurship for the wrong reasons. So I think when I went to entrepreneurships, I always felt that I went in because I want to make more money, I want to have more time, I want to have a lot of freedom where I don't really need to work much, then I get to make more money. So I think when I went in entrepreneurship in the wrong reasons, I also realized that there's a lot of people who went in also the same way as well. And as I become an employer, where I have there's a point where I have 20 team members, I realize a lot of people don't really realize that the entrepreneur actually takes a lot of risks, actually works more hours, makes a lot lesser money. So I always try to explain to my employees, and eventually it's like it gets a bit tiring to explain. So one day I come up with an idea and said, hey, why not I try something different, where I happened to find a game that I really like, which is archery tag. So archery tag is like paintball, but instead of shooting each other with a gun, you shoot each other with a bow and arrow, like Robin Hood life like that. So we came up with that project, and we actually turned it into a business, where we said, okay, let's turn it into an opportunity where anybody in my team members, doesn't matter whether you're a lifeguard or an admin or a swimming coach, you can actually be a boss. So by putting money in, and we will run this business together. So we have like as many people as you want who wants to join, and eventually we appoint a CEO as well. But at the beginning, we also told ourselves that it's going to be like a 2-year fun project. And after that, we'll just close it down and see how it goes. So that actually was a really, really good project, because eventually a lot of people get to learn more about entrepreneurship. And for me, I also learned a lot from that experience. Let me just show you a little bit on what archery tag looks like. So basically, this is archery tag, and we had 8 partners at the beginning. So this is a really, really fun experience, because eventually my objective of wanting people to experience entrepreneurship for themselves, rather than just talking about it, rather than explaining myself, it was very successful, because eventually a lot of employees start to realize actually being a boss is not as what we imagine it to be. Eventually we have a title, but we still have to do all the work that's in it. And that actually helped to build a lot of employees into having a lot more ownership, a lot more empathy towards management. And we were very lucky, because eventually this entrepreneur, his name is Coach Arthur. So Coach Arthur, he was very dedicated during this project, and eventually after 2 years, we gave the whole business to him. So he owns 100% of that business, and he became really, really successful in this business. Actually, during the pandemic itself, he made his first $1 million. So we could now call him the millionaire coach. And from there, not only he created a lot of revenue for himself, but he created a lot of jobs, created a lot of opportunities for youngsters to learn how to host. Because during the pandemic, a lot of people cannot play physical games. He turned it into a virtual team building company, and eventually it helps a lot of people to build their courage, builds their capability to host people, to speak. And that actually made him a lot of money, that gave a lot of other people a lot of extra income working from their home, a lot of opportunity for building their skill sets. So that was something very, very powerful, that I got inspired by that project. And along the way, so many people benefited from it, where he would also explain to other people on how entrepreneurship works. And a lot of people more inspired to become entrepreneurs as well. That's where I also built my second entrepreneur, which is Coach Money. So Coach Money, he runs the lifeguard for Swimming12. So basically, in Swimming12, other than providing swimming lessons in the sports center, other than managing the sports center, we also provide the lifeguards. So he was the one who helped me manage the lifeguarding for 5 years, and he was very persistent. He have never like asked for like a raise. He have never asked for never complained about his responsibility. So we've always taken care of him. He's always been taking care of the company. And after like 5 years, I felt that he has been doing very well. I think it's autopilot because of him. So eventually I gave the whole business to him. So now he runs this company called Red Rescue. So basically, Lake Rescue now provides lifeguards, and now they have more than 10 lifeguards, more than 10 employees, and they are providing certifications. So he's really successful now, and when he was running his business, he was only like 21 years old. So that was something very powerful. Then after that, this year itself, only this year, we started another business, which is a food business. And this is, again, we open up the opportunity to many Swimming12 team members where they can become the investors of it. But I'm looking for one entrepreneur. And Coach Fangi step up to the responsibility. And eventually, he is now the main owner of Chef Yong. Sorry, main owner in training. So basically, again, it's another 2-year project. If he does well, the whole business will be given to him. Depends on his performance. And so far, he's doing really, really well. I think in the next 2 to 3 months' time, he will have made his first $500,000 revenue already. And that's only in our first year. We are now only in our 11th month. And the first 2 months was like zero income because we were like still struggling with the licensing. We were very new to it. But now it's extremely successful. So in all this experience of building employees into entrepreneurs, I actually learned a lot, and I felt that it's a very good experience for both employers and employees. So one, I think from an employer standpoint, I think it builds the team together. It actually creates a very good a bonding among team members. It creates a lot of new skill sets being learned. It creates a lot of new opportunities where they have never had the chance to actually do that in such a short time. So I think it's a really fun thing to do. And also it creates a lot of empathy, especially when people who don't really understand you as a business owner, by giving them the opportunity, they actually start to understand actually the responsibility is pretty high, the job load is really high, the budget is not as high as people think. So I think that is a good build up for making your job a lot easier because there's more empathy. I think it's also really fun to provide growth opportunities. It's not every day that people get to grow, especially in your team, where if you're just training them or you depend on team members to train them, sometimes they won't grow as fast. But if an opportunity like this comes up, they definitely step up to more than what they're capable of. Very often you will see like they're actually not ready for it, but because you give them opportunity, you teach them, you mentor them, and they become not just what you expect, but more than your expectation, and that's really inspiring. And I would say for employers, it's also very powerful as it builds synergy. Like for example, when we get into this team building thing, one of the reason was we wanted to reach the corporate market. So corporate market is where big companies, they wanted their team members to have some team bonding activities. We wanted to sell swimming lessons to them. But coming into a company and say, hey, you want to learn swimming? It's kind of hard because to a lot of people, swimming it can be boring. Or especially to a lot of people, swimming is like very difficult to learn. It's like they are afraid from their past trauma. So it's something very hard to enter into corporate. So we're thinking, what don't we start this team building A-type company first? Then as we build more database, more people get to know us, then we can actually introduce our programs to them as well. So that works pretty well. In fact, now ATAC has a lot of big clients, including Facebook themselves, all the way from US, including Google, people from Singapore, from Europe, and all over the world. So that is something that is very synergistic, that if I were to run Swimming12 alone, we wouldn't have this opportunity to connect with so many corporate companies around the world. So I think this is a side benefit. Even like the food business, when we opened up the food business, it was not just to have a backup plan just in case the MCO4 was happening. So that was the main intention. But eventually it also creates a lot of synergy where a lot of people who wouldn't come to sports center to exercise, or they wouldn't know your place exists, but because they want to look for good food. So when you come and look for good food and you happen to have a nice place to eat, and they were like, oh, I didn't know that here there's a sports center. Oh, I didn't know that here there's a swimming school. So that actually creates a lot of synergy where the people who sign up for swimming lessons, they get hungry, they eat. People who come and eat, say, oh, there's a swimming school, then they come and use the sports center more often. So I think that synergy is very powerful as well as a business owner. And I think it's very nourishing for the soul as well by doing something for somebody that they can never pay you back. So I think that's something priceless. Okay, so I think that's the tips that I can give for entrepreneurs. At the same time, for the employees as well, if you're an employee and you kind of hope that you get this kind of opportunities. One, you can share these videos with your employers, but at the same time, I think on your part as an employee, you would also need to play a part as much as possible. I think one of the best tips I've received so far when I was an employee was to work in the company as if it belongs to you. Take it like a practice run. If this company that you're working for is your company, how would you do things with the limitation that you have? If your boss is not listening to you, if you have limited resources, you have limited team members, your team members are not working very well, but if this is your company, your dad like hand over it to you, what will you do? So if you work with that kind of mindset, as if the company belongs to you, it will be very, very powerful because your mindset is tweaked in a very different way. You don't see work as work anymore. You see work as an opportunity to learn. You see a lot of opportunities where you get to test out your ideas, your full ideas, where you don't hold back. Because I've seen a lot of people who work with a mindset that only if I get paid this much, then I will work this much. So those are people who will never grow their skill set. Those are people who get stagnant and become very complaining and eventually like very unhappy with their life. And even when they came out and become entrepreneur themselves, they're not ready because they have never practiced when they have the opportunity in someone else's company, in someone else's risk taking, someone else pay money for the mistakes. When they don't push themselves to the limit, they don't get to experiment. So I'll say that is a very important tip for you to consider. And also, definitely always do more than you're paid for. A good rule of thumb, I would say, is do 10 times. So if you can bring if you make like 2,000 a month, aim to bring 20,000 worth of value to the company every single month. It's only when you can do that that you can see your salary start growing, you see opportunities start coming. Because if you can't even provide that kind of value, we feel that, oh, if I bring in 1,000 ringgit, I must get paid at least 500 ringgit, I must get paid at least 800 ringgit. And that's not realistic. Because at the end of the day, when you become an entrepreneur, you start to pay a lot for things. You start to pay your staff, landlord, you pay for accidents, mistakes of your staff. You get to pay for a lot of hidden bills, a lot of government fees. You start to realize in the end, you actually need to provide 10 times the value that you get. So for example, when I was making like 1 million for the company, I was taking home money like 100,000. So it's like really 10 times the amount of hard work you need to bring in value. If you have a practice for that, when it's your time to become an entrepreneur, it's like effortless. So that's the same philosophy I gave to every team member that works for me. And eventually those who really follow those advice, those who really provide and those who persist throughout the years, they're the ones who get these kind of opportunities. Yeah. Last advice I could give to you as an employee who aim for these kind of opportunities, I would say learn how to ask good questions. Because very often the quality of the answers that you receive really depends on the quality of the questions that you ask. So if you ask very generic questions, very simple questions, you get very simple answers. And this is something that you can start to aim for. You can easily go to YouTube and ask how to ask better questions. Or as a leader, how do I get more results by asking better questions? Actually, there's a lot of tips for that. In my time, that used to be not available. So I think this is something that you can leverage on during this era of information where you can learn anything that you want. So I think that's it from me. I hope you enjoy this session and gain some value from it. I hope more employers give more chance to employees to become entrepreneurs. I hope more employees work hard enough, create enough value for employers to actually consider this kind of options as well. And my name is EJ. You can look for me in my Facebook, which is just fb.com/marketer, or if you're on Instagram, it's EJ Yeap. I'm now exploring into LinkedIn. I don't I don't know what's my LinkedIn thing, but you can look for me for my full name there. So I hope we keep in touch. Thank you so much for this chance to speak to you. Thank you and have a good day.